Let's have a prayer. Father, we thank you for what you've done for us. We thank you for the opportunity to be here with this family. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the ideas of about leadership. We ask that you would guide us in these discussions. Bless those who have volunteered and are willing to teach. Put your words in their hearts so that the things that you would have us to hear are what's delivered. Thank you for your Son. It's through his name that we pray. Amen. So class number 2 of 4 from the book Extreme Ownership. The first thing that I think I want to throw out, and it's probably good that for the smaller group to hear that for this reason. I appreciate your commitment to this class. Wednesdays are long days for all of us. So whatever your full-time job or whatever it is that you do between 8 and 5, those are tedious and tiring things to do, tough jobs. Then there may be in between. I just spent 2 hours in an elders meeting, which is not always difficult, but it is tedious as you think about some of the things that are going on here, trying to make decisions that impact, well, there's 3,500 people on a roll. So there's some tediousness to that. I'm not sure stress is the right word. So at the end of that here, I've got another 30 minutes or an hour to try to carry the burden of teaching, which we've had at least 3 different weeks about how teachers are going to be held to a higher standard and judged more difficultly. So it's been a long day for all of us. So I recognize the long day. So here's what I hope that at the end of this day, every Wednesday that we're here, is that I bring something of value to the table. Lord willing, that will happen because he has prepped it and helped me to study that way. And tonight and going forward, I hope that there are at least one thing that's a little different, maybe a little more fun from that standpoint. I've got a video that I'm going to end up with that is about leadership. But to me, it was more fun to see that than watch these warriors, Jocko and Leaf, talk about what they've done. That's kind of stressful because I understand what they've been through. I mean, if you read the book, they've been through some challenging times. So normally for a 30-minute class, Sunday morning class, I'll have 3 or 4 pages of notes that I go through. Tonight I have 2. So with a couple of 3 little videos, I'm hoping we get at least 30 minutes of class time in. But if we finish early, then we finish early. So I ran across a quote recently that I thought was a good one for us. It's not necessarily part of the material, but just throw it out for in case it sticks and says, oh yeah, I like that. I'll mark that down and note it. It says, leadership is simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. I thought, wow, if that it catches me at a point where I say, yeah, I can buy into that a lot. Leadership is simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So last week, if you were here last week, and there was one concept that Jocko Willink talked about that you captured, and I know this sounds like read the teacher's mind, whatever he said that you caught on to, that's right. However, I'm looking for one specific thing just to see if that point was driven home by our efforts here. So what did Jocko say? One point to you that stuck.
I don't think necessarily there's a point, more a part of the action that he took was in addition to taking the responsibility. When he was in front of his commander, he said, I already had the action plan to, remedy the mistakes we made.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, don't just come with, I'm sorry. Also come with, ready to go.
That's right. What are we going to do next?
Yeah.
I think the more basic that you alluded to there was the thing that caught my attention most of all was I own it. That can be said in a variety of ways depending on your status and position, but I'm not going to look for excuses. If it's in my team, if it's in my unit, if it's in my class, whatever, and I am the leader for that group, I own it. And if things don't go right, I've got to figure out a way to make sure that they go better down the road. So that one idea was what stuck with me. Again, I'm not asking you to buy that necessarily. I'm asking you to think about that because it's a big deal. I think in our scope of life, I own it. So I'm going to show you a video, like I said, 2 or 3 videos tonight. Listen for leadership ideas. These first 2 are relatively short, just a couple minutes long. This first one is Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Those are the 2 authors of the book. They are working together on this first video. So what leadership ideas do you get out of this? They hit several things kind of quickly, so that'll just be part of our next conversation.
When I came back from Iraq, I was a leadership instructor. And 1 week of training is called Hell Week. Students stay awake for 5 or 6 days nonstop, and you're pushed to the limits of your physical and mental capacity. The students are divided into teams called boat crews, and every event is a race. One boat crew that we were watching was winning every race. Another boat crew was losing every race. One of our senior instructors said, "Let's swap out the leaders." Lo and behold, the boat crew that had been losing every race, they started to win. Spent 13 years in the Navy, 9 of those as a Navy SEAL. Worked very closely with Jocko Willink.
All I ever wanted to do with my life was be a commando. I realized I need to capture the lessons we learned about combat and pass them on. What we see when we work with leaders is we see them become aware of the power of leadership. They become aware of what their strengths are and what they're doing well. They also become aware of what their weaknesses are and where they're failing.
There's only 2 measures that matter, and that's effective and ineffective. As a leader, you have got to maintain the standards that just cannot be compromised.
And when I talk about leadership, I'm not just talking about me. I'm not just talking about the platoon commanders that work for me. I'm talking about leadership at every level. Honest self-critique, sometimes brutally honest. Always looking in the mirror saying, how can we do things better? How can we improve? No one is above that. And what they do with the principles that we give them is use them as tools to become better leaders. You own the solution to your problems. We give them the framework to make the right decisions, to lead their teams, and win.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you heard in that pretty quick summary of ideas from their leadership efforts with the SEAL teams? I'll give you the first one while you're thinking. Right at the very beginning of the video, did you catch the name of this period of this 1 week time frame that they put the SEALs through? It's called Hell Week, right, because of the difficulty. And they may have talked about it in there. Again, I've watched it so many times I forget which video says which, but better part of 5 days with less than 4 hours sleep in that period of 5 days. So they are physically tried and they are mentally, emotionally tried. So first observation I had would be Hell Week is not fun. That was supposed to be a sort of a, yeah, you're right. Sorry. It's Wednesday night, right? And we're all tired. Yes, sir.
Standards cannot be compromised.
Standards. Absolutely. What else?
I think that just ties in with kind of what you said earlier, and standards can't be compromised. They said in this video, leadership's at every level. You know, whether you're a leader or as an organization or you're me sitting right here, you know, I'm still looked at as a leader by my children, you know, I might be looked at as a leader by people in this room or as a peer, but, you know, I still have a standard to uphold no matter the position I find myself in, you know, and one really big point is I think great leaders are also great followers, you know, so you have to know when to support whatever's going on or support those people, and also when it's time to step up.
Yep.
So.
Yep. What else?
Looks like leaders determine the success or failure of your mission.
Yeah. Did you catch the boat crew conversation in there? It was short, but they had 4, 5, 6 different boat crews. One was traditionally a winner. One was traditionally a loser through all their competition. So one of the senior instructors said, tell you what, let's try something. Let's switch out the leaders to those 2 boats. But otherwise, it's the same crew. Just switch the leaders. And what did they notice? The losing crew with the different leader became winners. The crew that had been winners before with a different leader, actually, they competed for first and second the rest of the time. They didn't drop to losing because there was this teamwork thing, synergy that was going on even without the leaders' real assistance in this deal. I thought, that is amazing. Because I struggled a little bit with the idea as I read the book about the leaders can make that much difference. And that's not the first time that happened. Well, let me see. That's not the only time that happened. There were multiple times with their boat training exercise where changing leaders made a difference in how the crews performed. And so what were those leadership characteristics? That's a rhetorical question. They were trying to think as instructors of SEAL teams, what are the leadership characteristics that are making these guys a better team than they were without that leader? And how can that leader be moved to different groups and still get high performance out of the team no matter what the team was like before? I mean, there's some really interesting information and study there that goes into what's going on there. So we've got the standards thing. We have leadership makes a difference. What else?
I think one thing I heard him say, and I would say even more so as a Christian man, though, is, in my words, self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
In their words, it was learn from your experience.
Yep.
And so each experience that we go through in life is, are we looking inward towards ourselves? What did I learn? What did that teach me? How can I be better? And it sounded like that's what they did as well. They looked back with all their experiences and they gained. And they kept moving forward.
That's right. In last week's video, he told the story about being in this situation where a lot of things fell apart. They shot a friendly, not one of their men, but one of the Iraqi soldiers that was working with their team. They didn't know where different groups of this bigger team that went out, they didn't know where they were. They weren't reporting back properly. And as he noted, multiple mistakes had been made. Multiple errors had happened. So there was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of we'll just do mistakes to pass around. But in the end, he said, I own it all because I was the mission commander. And while I wasn't in the field, I should have done a better job at preparing my folks for the deal. Here's what I learned. And here's what we will do next time, self-reflection. Here's what I learned, and here's what we'll do next time to make sure we don't make those mistakes again. So, yeah. What else?
Heard him say leaders are either effective or ineffective.
Yeah, what a neat deal. Again, it goes back to that leadership position, but there's only 2 measures. Are you getting it done or not? So, all right, that's good. Any other? I don't want to beat that horse all the way to death.
To beat the horse more, he went to his subordinate, which was his senior trainer, and they talked it out. And so he was listening to people, and then he took action.
Yeah. So what does that tell you about his leadership style? What's his attitude about himself as the leader? Is he also the smartest guy on the team?
No.
Yeah, not necessarily. Yeah. You got guys with expertise and and information and thought processes that are equally valid. The buck stops somewhere, but you got other people that you can rely on for information to help you accomplish the mission, whatever that might be. Anything else?
I think it's important what you were saying, Cliff, about pointing that out, about listening first, then taking action. I get in trouble with my wife because I don't listen. And I don't know if any of the rest of you have ever experienced that or not.
That's a male thing.
I'm sorry you're in that boat all by yourself. I just can't believe.
So I think that, as was stated earlier, everybody's a leader in some way. You're a leader at home with your wife, you're a leader with your kids. Whether you have a formal leadership position or not, people are looking to you for the leader, and you need to listen and have a plan and take action. That listening first part, I appreciate that, Cliff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that, as has been said in some ways, a variety of different words, that no matter where your position in the pecking order of the business or whatever, we have leadership opportunities. We're going to be asked to present. We're going to be asked to do our job, and there's leadership. And formal, as a husband and father, that's pretty formal, the most formal leadership position that we could have. So
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but kind of something that comes to my mind when we're talking about all this is the phrase, don't get treed by a chihuahua. And what that means is kind of like, we're all prone to make knee-jerk reactions. It's normal. You see something, you have feelings, but just sometimes you got to develop that situation first or listen, exactly what you said. So I know I've been guilty sometimes of getting treated by that chihuahua, and other times I'm a little smarter.
yeah,
So.
that's a good one. Don't get treated by a chihuahua. Okay, so on any team, the responsibility rests on the shoulders of the leader. He's got to own everything, no one else to blame. So he has to acknowledge those mistakes, admit the failures, take ownership. And I want to come back to that. But the part of that is just recognizing, okay, there were mistakes made. What are we going to do to fix them? I think in our society, first of all, there are people that won't accept responsibility for anything. And we know who they are. We've seen them in action in all kinds of scenarios. I think there's a second group of people that has learned, if I just say, okay, my fault, whoever's up there looking to point blame, they don't know what to do with that. So they've learned, if I accept responsibility for it, if I say it's my fault, the story kind of ends, because whoever's huffing and puffing about the mistake, they don't know what to do with somebody. So they get off. There's no punishment delivered. Maybe there shouldn't be. But it's sort of the end of the discussion. Well, okay, now we know who's at fault. And because they don't know, they trail off and nothing ever happens. There's not a discussion about what do we learn from that and what are we going to do differently next time. So I think that's another group. I think there's at least a third group that says there was a mistake made. I'm responsible for it. I have thought about it now, maybe even got some information from some of my associates, and here's what we're going to do to avoid that mistake again. I think that admitting to the mistake is part of the deal. The rest of it is, what are we going to do so that doesn't happen again? And that's not commonly taught nor shared in most groups. So I think part of what we can take away, part of what I take away is, don't just say, yep, my fault, sorry about that. It's, here's what I'm going to do to fix it so it doesn't happen again. That takes it to a whole different level.
Yeah. My company, we've been going through a transition the last 6 years of from whack-a-mole. In other words, if somebody pops up and makes a mistake, you fire them. Or you punish them somehow. From that to going through a root cause and finding out what is the root cause, we ask why 5 times until we get to the bottom of it. And then what is our corrective action with it? So each time a mistake is made, no, we're not going to fire him. Let's find out why he made it, whether it's human factors, whether it's a training issue or something else. But you have to find out why so that you can correct it so it won't happen again.
And what's the significance of asking why 5 times?
It's to get to the bottom, to keep asking until you find out what's wrong,
Yeah.
what's going on.
Because often the first couple of answers are
Those are the easy actions.
superficial.
Yeah, the first couple. are
Yeah,
easy.
very good.
I think if I can make us go for 30 minutes or whatever, I think that's fantastic, and so I've seen a couple different spectrums. So I've been in the service 11 years in a guy on the ground role. That's what I do. I'm a senior enlisted guy, so I accept that authority, responsibility, whatever you want to call it. But I always find it interesting, and I'm guilty of it too, but whatever group I'm in, it's like, how can you inspire? How can you hold them accountable? But like whether it's here at church or just anywhere, I don't want to make anyone sound bad anywhere, but like, when do I stop taking care of my personnel? So do they think that I'm just going to make a snap judgment and cream them and get them out of there, or do they know that I really want to solve that problem, so they have more motivation to work harder every day and be a better team player? That's what.
Yeah, well, previously it was solve the problem, you fire him, you get rid of him, your problem's gone. The problem never went away though, because you have other issues with personnel. So it never went away right now. So whatever department that's in, if it's in my department or another department, that becomes your responsibility as head of the department now. It's assigned to you to come up with the corrective actions. Now you know why. Let's find out what the corrective actions are.
Yeah.
But it's our responsibility, yeah.
Yeah. No one's like looking over their shoulders. They do their
No,
job.
no.
Kind of a corollary to that is when you have someone under you that screws up, he has become more valuable to you because he won't do it again. I mean, there are some people, there's that 10%.
You just invested in him for that mistake.
Yeah.
There is that 10%, but generally, that person's more valuable because he's made that mistake, you've corrected it, and now, he's.
So what do we
because of
think?
the experience.
What do we think the motivation, the inspiration, the building your team? What's their attitude going to be if instead of whacking the mole, you say, "We recognize that was a mistake. You recognize that too, right? Yeah. What are we going to do to fix that?" And you come up with this plan. So instead of getting the axe or even a whack, you get a team member that you have worked to a higher level of performance. What is their attitude going to be toward you and supporting you and that team?
Probably going to respect you, and everyone on the team is going to respect everyone else as well, because that higher standard, so people are going to understand what's expected of them, and they're going to work harder to achieve that.
I agree. When we're not whacking people, but we're working with them to improve performance, they are inspired to perform better, and they look at us as better leaders. So I think it's a win in a lot of ways going forward. I think we've also historically treated people incorrectly, and I think it's a historical thing. It's the way things happen for so long, where mistakes are always punished, particularly when they're admitted to. So here's a simple example. Who took that last cookie? I mean, I remember a question similar to that in my house when I was little. I'll be honest, you're teaching me honesty. I took the last cookie. Whack, 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 whack. Oh, okay. I won't be honest next time. That doesn't get me any. So I think, and again, I don't blame my folks for any of that stuff, but I think that historically that has been the deal. So what are we teaching? We're teaching them, we're trying to teach them don't take the cookie, but instead we're teaching them don't be honest, because the honesty is what got them in trouble, right? And so I think we need to be careful as adults. That message we're teaching to others is, if you're honest, what's the result going to be? Punishment or a plan to improve performance later so that mistake doesn't happen again? Just a thought. Another thing, this didn't come up on the video. These are things that came from the book that were part of this section in the book. The leader bears the full responsibility for explaining the strategic mission, developing the tactics, securing the training and resources to enable the team to properly and successfully execute. first part of that's what I want to focus on. Leaders bears full responsibility for explaining the strategic mission. How many times have you been asked or told to do a job with little or no explanation or reasoning? Just go do that. Why? Because I said so. Really? But again, it's like, let's take that hill. Why are we going to take that hill? There's 14 other hills over there. People are shooting at me from that hill. Why don't we take some other hill? We got to take that hill because they're shooting at us. And if we don't take that hill, every man that comes ashore behind us is going to die. We are the first ones on the ground. We have got to take that hill in order to save hundreds and thousands of lives. Over-example for our purposes. But leaders that don't tell us why we're doing this, what's the purpose of the mission? Are we going to follow them? I know when people told me, do this because I said so, I might follow them because I was too weak to press the issue, but I certainly wasn't going to enthusiastically follow them. If there was a group of us doing, I was going to trail back, be one of the last ones instead of one of the first ones. Why are we doing this? I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense. What's the strategic reason for doing this? So I think the leader bears a responsibility to explain the strategic mission and why we're doing it. You've heard of seagull managers?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think some of the managers I've seen do. Loyalty goes to the team and mission above any individual. Loyalty goes to the team and mission above any individual. You know, I get that. That was one of the harder ones for me to think through, and particularly because there are some situations I can think of. If combat, I get that. Even in a business setting, if we've made a bad hire, but for some reason we like him, they mesh with us, mesh with me personality-wise. But if they're not performing, if they're not holding up their part of the team, if we've had corrective actions discussed and that doesn't seem to make a difference, but again, somehow they become a little bit of a friend, that's a tough deal when the mission in the team is higher than any individual. You push that down a notch into the family, I think it's a little bit difficult to say, I'm sorry, son, you are just not cutting it. You're out of here. So I think there's some applications most of the way up and down the line, but there may be some times when it doesn't work quite as well.
But there are times where that is in fact what you must do. It's not a disowning, but it is a boundary setting.
Yes. Very
For the sake
good.
of the family.
Different way to say that. Absolutely.
I think part of that, loyalty is very, very important for a leader and for his team, because if he's not loyal to every member of his team, they are not going to be loyal to him.
Very good. Yeah.
Because all eyes are always on you.
So that's a good deal, but again, trying to make some applications to church and family. What if you have a ministry leader or deacon that is not doing the job that in your leadership position you think they need to be doing? Do you cut or fish bait? Cut, bait, or fish? Somehow there's a saying in there, right?
I think you probably discuss it with the person, find out what's going on, develop the situation, and I'd say move from there.
As a good leader, is there a time when you say, hey, Mr. Ministry Leader, Miss Ministry Leader, you're not doing what we need you to do, what we told you to do, what we set up in your action plan to do?
Yep, and they might be like, yeah, you know what, I'm not in a place in my life right now, and you might find a better position for them. But I think just that open, honest communication, as difficult as it can be, and sometimes you won't like what you get, at least you get down to the root. And sometimes it might just be they didn't understand the standards or whatever.
It's hard enough in a business setting to do that. I think in a church setting, it's a little more difficult. And certainly in a family setting, boundaries have to be set, but it's even a different relationship deal that you have to deal with. So it's a tough thing.
In Sunday school, my wife tells me I need to approach things from a different angle rather than the military. So,
There are other angles.
You need to try to approach it from a different angle. Okay.
Okay, so no bad teams, only bad leaders. So, got a second video. We have some time. Again, just watch for some leadership ideas in this.
There's only two measures that matter, and that's effective and ineffective. Are you effective? Are you accomplishing the mission? And if you are, figure out a way to become even more effective. If you're ineffective, you're not accomplishing the mission, then you got to figure it out. You got to take ownership of that. You got to solve that problem. If your team isn't getting the job done, as a leader, you have to drive those standards. I learned pretty early on that in the SEAL teams, there's some strong personalities there, which is awesome. That's one of the great things about the SEAL teams. And there's always this tension between we should do it this way or we should do it this way and we should train this hard, we should focus over there. But as a leader, you have got to maintain the standards. And there are standards that just cannot be compromised. You've got to push hard. You've got to drive that performance. You've got to set the tone for that. And if you don't do that, no one's going to do it. It's the performance that you see. And if it's substandard, you've got to push again. And you got to push again. You got to set that bar high. Now, that being said, you can't drive your team to the ground. You have to lead them. You can't be a slave driver. You can't destroy your team. You can't be overbearing. But for those things that really matter, push your performance to the next level, you have got to set that standard. And I think that's what makes true the best military units, the best teams out there today. It's not the words that you said. It's not the email that you sent. It's not the banner that you created to put on the wall or the PowerPoint slides that you did. It's not what you preach, it's what you talk about.
What'd you hear there? I think there was some repetition to what we heard in the first one. Is a team effective or ineffective? Drive the standards. Strive to be better. You know, even in their deals, I always felt like that these SEAL teams never made a mistake. I mean, they had so much training and through all the stuff that they do, and we're going to do this and that. And, of course, TV and movies are a little bit misleading because it always looks like they're on top of their game. But in the real world, the bad guys don't always work like they do in the training scenarios. So sometimes the real world brings you different scenarios that you hadn't thought of, didn't know about. You got to work. They were in the book. They talked about how there are certain things when you are in a situation. There's a checklist. Basically, you run through your mind of about 5 or 6 things. Do this first. Make sure everybody's protected. Do this second. Do this third. Do this fourth. And they drive that in so much that when they're out there in the field and they're actually getting shot at, it's ingrained so deeply that that's how they react and how they operate. So what else? Did you hear anything else? What was the last thing basically that they said in there? Last thing on the screen, not that echelon stuff, but it's not
What you preach.
not what you preach. It's what you tolerate. Yeah, tolerate subpar performance. You set the standard low. I thought that was a good deal in there in particular. Believing in the mission. There's nothing more demoralizing than a leader who can't clearly articulate why we're doing what we're doing. Again, some repetition to what we've already gone through. Just so happens today, my supervisor sent a piece that he gets on some kind of a regular basis. That's sort of one of those inspirational kinds of deals. And this one was titled, No One Achieves Success Alone, by John Gordon. He's an author about success and leadership and stuff like that. So this short deal was mostly about Alan Mulally. Know that name? Recent CEO of Ford. Okay. So Ford was recognized. Ford was regionalized. I can't read the words. Ford was regionalized and acted like they were a number of different companies. Did I say that right? Alan Mulally was the CEO of Ford. Did I say that correctly? Okay. So Ford was regionalized and acted like they were a number of different companies. They suffered from a lack of clarity, accountability, focus, and execution. This is what Mulally is saying after he takes over. So Mulally comes in, says we're going to have one Ford initiative. Have you seen that on TV and other places? It's out there in some places. One Ford. One team working on one plan to achieve one goal. He even created his own working together management system, 11 ideals and principles, strategy and process to get everyone to work together, focus on the process, implement the plan. Everyone had to know the plan, embrace the plan, and relentlessly work towards the plan. They had to be committed to the enterprise and each other, and they had to be accountable to the values and principles of the culture and each other. So what happened to Ford since he took over in 2009? Where were they in 2009 or 8?
Well, they were being bailed out.
Near bankruptcy. Yep, near bankruptcy. So today they have saved tens of thousands of jobs, improved the American economy, delivered incredible results. So his plan, I thought, well, that's interesting because we're talking about team, a goal. Everybody's focused on that. I thought it fit right into the rest of what we were doing. Okay, one last deal. I perceive this as a little bit fun. I wish Alan was here to enjoy the football deal. But there are some leadership lessons in here. See what you come up with.
So, Coach, how strong is Westview this year?
A lot stronger than we are.
You already written Friday night down as a loss, Brock?
Well, not if I know we could beat them.
Come here, Brock. You too, Jeremy.
What, am I in trouble now?
Not yet. I want to see you do the death crawl again, except I want to see your absolute best.
What, you want me to go to the 30?
I think you can go to the 50.
50. I can go to the 50 if nobody's on my back.
I think you can do it with Jeremy on your back. But even if you can, I want you to promise me you're going to do your best.
All right.
Your best.
Okay.
You going to give me your best?
I'm going to give you my best.
All right, one more thing. I want you to do it blindfolded.
Why?
Because I want you giving up at a certain point when you can go further. Get down. Jeremy, get on his back. Now get a good tight hold, Jeremy. All right. Let's go, Brock. Keep your knees off the ground, just your hands and feet. There you go. A little bit left. There you go. Jeremy, good effort. That way, Brock. You keep coming. There you go. It's a good start. A little bit left. A little bit left. There you go, Brock. Good strength. That's it, Brock. That's it.
Not the 20 yet?
Forget the 20. You give me your best. You keep going. That's it. No, don't stop, Brock. You got more in you than that.
I ain't done. Just resting a second.
You gotta keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's go. Don't quit till you got
I
nothing
ain't done.
left.
I'm just resting.
There you go. Keep moving. Keep moving. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving. Your very best. Your very best. Your very best. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. Don't quit on me. Keep going. Keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. That's it. Your very best. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go. That's it. You keep driving. Keep your knees off the ground. Keep driving it. Don't quit till you got nothing left. Keep moving, Brock. That's it. That's it. That's it. Keep going. I want everything you got. Come on, keep going. It hurts. Don't quit on me. Your very best. Keep driving. Keep driving. There you go. There you go.
He's hanging.
I know you said it.
I'm out of strength.
And you negotiate with your buddy to find more strength, but don't you give up on me, Brock. You keep going. You hear me? You keep going. You're doing good. You keep going. Do not quit on me. You keep going.
It hurts.
I know it hurts. You keep going. You keep going. It's all art from here. 30 more steps. You keep going, Brock. Come on. Keep going.
Burn.
And let it burn.
Burn.
It's all art. You keep going, Brock. Come on. Come on. Keep going. You will be your best. Your best. Don't stop. Keep going. It's not too hard. You keep going. Come on, Brock. Give me more. Give me more. Keep going. 20 more steps. 20 more. Keep going, Brock. Give me your best. Don't quit. No. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. Brock Kelly, you don't quit. Keep going. Keep going. Go, Brock Kelly. You don't quit on me. No, you keep going. You keep going. Go, Brock. 10 more steps. 10 more. 10 more. 10 more. Keep going. Don't quit. Give me more. You can. You can. 5 more. 5 more. Come on, Brock. Come on. Don't quit. Don't quit. Come on, Brock. 2 more. 1 more. Look up, Brock. You're in the end zone. Brock, you are the most influential player on this team. If you walk around defeated, so will they. Don't tell me you can't give me more than what I've been seeing. You just carried a 140-pound man across this whole field in your arms. Brock, I need you. God's gifted you with the ability of leadership. Don't waste it.
Coach?
Can I count on you?
Yes. Coach?
What is it, Jeremy?
I weigh 160.
All right. Who next?
Oh, man. What did you see in the background going on? What was the team doing? They noticed the leadership that was going on. I'm not sure whether I want to play for that particular coach. I've watched the video several times this week in preparation, trying to get timing and all that, and found out my wife does not like this video because of the yelling by the coach. But what did Brock do? What was his first attitude? First attitude that we see in there.
Naysayer.
Yeah, we can't do it. I mean, he didn't say those words, but
He'd already given up.
yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. What did we see through when he shut off his mind from the attitude and put his mind into performance? What did we see? Did I say that right?
More than he thought he.
Yeah. He had a whole lot more in him that he didn't realize. And again, what was the rest of the team doing?
They were following him. They were
Whoa. Yeah. They went from laughing and chuckling and kind of having the same whatever kind of attitude to everybody standing up and watching. They're interested. Wow. Look what Brock did. Well, if he can do that, I don't know what I can do. I may not carry the kid, but I got more to put out too, probably. So that struck me as something was a little more fun than some of the other stuff. Seeing these kids and this young man that finds more in him than he thought he had to help make a winning thing later. If you care, there are two sides to the handout tonight. One has several questions and things that you can use in your small groups. I'm certainly not one to think that I'm the only one with good ideas and good questions, but that is a resource that you could use for your small groups this next week, should you choose to. So they're there for you. I really appreciate you coming.
I just want to say one thing. At least it kind of took me a while to learn when I was a new leader, is not only do you have to know, your guys' limitations and their strengths and weaknesses and how they react to stuff, but I mean really just as all of us are leaders in our families or with each other and everything else we do, how to be there for each other, motivate each other, and help each other get over those hurdles, whatever it is in life. And I think the toughest thing can be sometimes is really finding out how that person responds, because how I may have gotten over a hurdle could be completely different than someone else.
Absolutely. Figuring out what motivates the people on your team, whoever that is. And again, even in a family, what motivates my spouse, what motivates my older son versus my younger son, and how is that different from what motivates, I don't have any daughters, so I got no idea about motivating a female child, but some of you do, and it's different than what motivates the guys. So absolutely true. So hope God blesses your week as you go forward. Hope He protects you, and I hope you can remain faithful to Him through your efforts till we meet again. Thank you.